Rev up your engines!
Well, the little pickup trucks, Ford Mavericks, are selling like hotcakes, or so they say. They can't keep up with ordering. They say la 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 la. Well, a lot of it's kind of information that's kind of shading the truth a little bit, because here's an example. Okay, year to date, Ford sold 66,430 of them. But on the other hand, Ford sold over 600,000 F-150s. So this is 1/10 of the F-150s. It's a spit in the bucket, right? They keep talking about, oh, the great Maverick. They really haven't sold that many of them. They haven't made that many of them either. You know? They probably should have ramped their production up more, because the only competitor is Santa Cruz pickup truck. They're not that well made, right? They don't have that much competition. You know for sure, if Toyota comes out with a small pickup truck, it will eat the Ford Mavericks lunch. Because look what happened. Ford always was big with their F-150s, but they sold a reasonable amount of their smaller trucks. Okay, the Ford Rangers, right? Ford Rangers used to be a big deal. Well, guess what? Toyota Tacomas ate their lunch. Toyota came in, they just outsold them like mad. Much better trucks, heavier duty, lasted longer, didn't have problems, right? Well, Ford was smart to make the Maverick, but they're not making enough of them. They sold 60-something thousand. They sold every one they made, but they're not making enough of them. And believe you me, if Toyota comes in with a small pickup truck, I guarantee you it will eat the Maverick's lunch, just like the Tacoma ate the Ranger's lunch, and continues to do so. Right? They're trying to make it look big, bigger than it is. It's only 60-something thousand. They sell 600-something thousand F-150s. That's the big market. Then they're bragging about the small truck, but they didn't make enough of them, and you watch. When Toyota comes out with a competitor, it will probably eat their lunch. Itala 15 says, my 04 Chevy Avalanche isn't getting full power. 04 Chevy Avalanche, 295,000 miles, it runs good, but when I get to the first light at my drive, quarter mile down the road, it won't give full power. The RPMs will go to 2,500, then drop to 500 for a few seconds, and then go back to normal. Then it goes okay. What do you think it is? Oh, your transmission's starting to go out. That's typical on those. Very rarely I ever see an Avalanche that goes 295,000 miles on the original transmission. Now, maybe you've already had it done, or maybe you bought it used and somebody else had it rebuilt, right? I've had people with those things that had 300,000 miles and they've been through 3 rebuilds already. So that's not surprising. If you find, it's going 2,800 RPM, all of a sudden it drops down for a little while and then it goes right back up. That is inside your transmission. The gear shifting is getting wonky. 295. Do you really want to spend that kind of money to rebuild the thing? I personally wouldn't. Now, if you want to take a shot in the dark and you could find an honest transmission, yeah, like trying to find a needle in a haystack, right? But if you could, maybe it's got a bad shift solenoid and that could be replaced. We mechanics can put our fancy scan tool, analyze the data, do bidirectional testing. Maybe it's got a bad shifter solenoid, and that just needs to be replaced. You can always try that. But from my experience, it's probably just flat wearing out with that kind of mileage. Joey Alberni says, I got a sticky column shifter. I got an 03 Chevy Tahoe. Transmission's just fine. When I put it in park, the shifter gets kind of stuck and the line's under park. What's wrong? I think it could be something major. Most of the time, when it does that, it means you need a new transmission shifter cable. You're pulling on the arm goes to a cable, the cable goes to the transmission and shifts the gear. Those wear out over time. Then it won't line up right with the PDRN stuff because the cable's stretched. You probably need a new cable. It is kind of a pain because it's inside there. You got to take the column apart and a bunch of plastic crap. But from my experience, it's almost always the cable stretched. Now, on the other hand, if you can always get it to go on and drive, go ahead and drive it that way. I've seen people driving 10 years that way. They're like, when you put it in drive, really, it'll say N for neutral, but you know that it's still driving, so who cares? When you put it up to park, it doesn't say park, but it stops in park and it doesn't roll. A lot of guys will just live with it when they find out what they got to pay if they're going to pay a mechanic to change that cable out. It's not a cheap job. And I mean, after they stretch a certain amount, they generally don't stretch anymore. And as long as you know, well, it's off half a click or something, you can drive it that way. TCP says, my blower motor resistor keeps failing. I got an 01 Chrysler Voyager van. My blower motor resistor fails. I tried 4 different brands. After a few weeks, only high speed work. What's going on? You have an electrical problem. The resistor is a power resistor, so you can have low speed, mid-range speed, high-range speed. When it burns out, then you only have high speed. The reason they burn out is because there is a problem in the system. Something is taking too much electricity and it overheats the resistor and burns it out. Now, numero uno, blower motor's just wearing out. It takes too much power, and then that extra power heats up the resistor and then melts it, right? And number two is, of course, an electrical short anywhere. Anywhere from the resistor to the blower motor. Any of those wires, look, if you see they're corroded or where they're bolted on, the bolts are loose or the wires have gotten brittle, you can always rewire. Try the blower motor first. That's simple. Just pops down, buy an aftermarket one at a discount auto parts store, put it in. That should fix it. But if not, then you're going to have to go through the whole wiring from the resistor all the way through to the motor. And something is going on there that's shorting it out. And pay special attention to the ground wiring for the blower motor. Because if the ground wire doesn't work and it's weak, that'll create too much resistance, and that will easily blow the resistor time after time. So it could easily be the ground wiring for the blower motor. Well, here's more electrical bad news. A company called ChargePoint. They make electrical chargers for electric cars, right? It lost 23% of its value when they said they're going to have a $1.5 billion convertible note sale. In other words, they want people to put money into the company. All these electric companies, all they ever ask for, please give us more money, please give us more money. Trying to get people's hard-earned money to be invested in these stupid electric companies that are failing. Hey man, Road and Barron, they've been writing stuff for investments for ages. Everyone knows or should know they need more capital to build this business. Wall Street doesn't project positive cash flow for most of this decade. Why would you invest your money into a company that's going to lose money for over a decade? No, it wouldn't make any sense, right? And they're all finding these, used to be IPOs, not so SPACs. They're a joke. Look what happened to VinFast. It lost 90-something% of its value already in a month, right? It's just a scam to get people to put their money into a company, because people running a company, they want cash, right? Check out these companies, especially the electric ones. Check out what their CEOs and board of directors are paying themselves for companies that don't make any money, right? These guys are like gigantic con artists, paying themselves all this money. So what if the company's not working out, it's losing money? Hey, they're making money for themselves, right? And anybody who invests in one of these SPACs or IPOs or convertible bonds in this electrical car venture business, they're out of their minds. And as I've said numerous times, one of the biggest problems with electric cars, you travel, where are you going to charge them, right? There's not that much money to be made in charging up electric cars, okay? In California, for example, over 90% of the charging is done at people's homes, right? Are you going to create a business like this ChargePoint where you're going to make charging stations all around and you're only going to get 10% of the business? It wouldn't make any sense. I would never invest in something like that for a business. If there's only 10% of the stuff you're going to be selling, the rest is all done at home, why would you invest a bunch of money into charging stations? There's no profit in it, right? It just wouldn't make any sense. It'd be like 90% of us had oil in our backyard. We're not going to go buy much oil. We got our own, right? Well, we got our own electricity at home. You can plug it into. Why would anybody invest a whole bunch of money into these things? They don't. And now these companies are, we'll have some convertible bonds. We'll think of ways to raise money. Well, guess what? They're not getting any of my money. And if you're smart, don't give any of yours to them or you're going to watch it disappear. Well, catalytic converter theft has dropped like a stone in Hawaii because they've changed the laws to make it harder to sell the stolen cats. So far in 2023, there's only been 119 reported thefts of catalytic converters in Hawaii, 119. It was 1,602 of the same period last year. So, obviously, it works. They're forcing people to give paperwork of where did they get it from. The people who buy these catalytic converters have to hold on to them for 60 days to make sure that the paperwork's in order, it's correct, it's not a stolen catalytic converter, right? And, interestingly enough, it's always a complex set of interactions that create anything, right? So yeah, the laws are great, make it harder for people to sell them, but a lot of it also has to do with the price of these precious materials, especially anything that's a precious metal, has been dropping. It went artificially high, now it's coming back down. So they don't get as much for it, and they're not going to be able to sell it easily because they got all these rules on how you get rid of things. So it's a good thing. Everybody should make laws for that, you know? Some states there's hardly any laws against stealing catalytic converters, like they spank you or something, like jaywalking or something. They can go to jail if they're going to do. They get caught and they go to jail, guess what? Less people will steal the things. If they can't sell it to somebody, hey, it's not worth anything. Used to be all kinds of stolen jewelry and stuff went through pawn shops. They changed the law so that they got to have a paper trail. Guess what? A lot of the stolen stuff can't be sold in pawn shops anymore. I mean, you're never going to stop at 100% like a pawn shop. They could get a ring and then quick melt it down for the gold. Well, you don't know where that gold came from, right? Most things aren't melt-downable for money. And so if you make a law that says, where's the paperwork, where's this, and they got to prove it, what are they going to be able to do with it? You know? Congratulations, Hawaii. Everybody else should follow you. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.